It's time for a Drummer Nation. Dom Famularo has been traveling the globe preaching the gospel of drumming for over 40 years. Dom has earned a reputation of being the world's leading motivational drum set artist educator, renowned for delivering entertaining and inspiring performances unlike any other. He has presented master classes and clinics around the globe, including history-making tours of China and the Far East. Dom remains an active educator through his personal teaching studio, colleges, drum schools, and camps, and is an in-demand consultant to major music corporations, serving as an education consultant for Sabian, Promark, Evans, Mapex, and Hudson Music. Dom Famularo, right after this. The former Crescent Vanguard series are now widely available as part of the legendary Sabian HH models. HH cymbals are traditionally hand-hammered into shape and sound by Sabian craftsmen. Find out more about the Vanguard series and all other Sabian models at Sabian.com. Sound Synergy's percussion care lubricants and conditioners include a series of 3 products for total drum kit care and maintenance. Percussion care products in your gig bag ensures your entire kit will always look and sound its best. Check out their website at soundsynergies.net.
Hi folks, I'm Johnny Vidakovich down here in New Orleans, and I just want to let you know that I love music and I love you, and I'm doing some Skype lessons. And if you want to hook up with me on Skype, that information is on the screen. It would be great if we hooked up. Peace and love, Johnny.
Hinstick Practice Drumsticks by Sam Ruttenberg. These drumsticks are new and improved and help drummers understand proper grip, finger technique, and rebound so drummers can play more easily. The patented contoured swivel pads rotate to allow drummers the feel of an unencumbered, free-floating stroke.
Hi, this is Stanton Moore. I've been playing and teaching drums for over 30 years. My new site, Stanton Moore Drum Academy, is the perfect online drum learning platform for any level drummer to learn how to play the drums the same way I did. I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of you as subscribers on the site, and I think we're going to have a lot of fun.
Dom Famularo, thank you so much for doing Drummer Nation. How are you, man?
I'm great, Michael. Great to see you, and thanks for having me on here. This is fantastic.
You know, I don't think I've ever seen you when you didn't have a smile on your face.
I learned at a very young age that in this crazy game of life, no one gets out alive. So I realized I wanted to make sure that I enjoy every single day, because it just very well could be my last, and I want to go out smiling.
I hear you, man. Horn in hand, as they used to say.
Exactly right.
Now, I know you're known all over the world as a teacher and a mentor. We're going to talk about that, but originally you are a drummer. I can only presume.
Sure. Absolutely.
So you grew up in Long Island. Take me through some of that.
I did. I grew up in a little town called Baldwin, Long Island. My parents were very supportive of music. My 2 older brothers played guitar and bass. My younger sister played piano. And at an early age, I was 11 years old when I started to play. By the time I was 12, our band that we had rehearsed started to work. So here I was now a working professional at the age of 12 in the Long Island area. We worked all private parties, and we did everything you could possibly imagine. And with that, that gave great experience. I started then working with other bands outside of my family band. And from that, it just kept on growing from there. And when I went to college, and my major was business, psychology, and communication.
Well, that's what you're doing.
and I did that purposely because I was already studying with guys like Max Roach and Joe Morello and Jim Chapin. And these guys were, because I lived in the New York area, these guys were here and reachable. So I had some great educators privately. So I began to go to school for some different reasons. And I kept on playing and performing. I moved out to California with some musicians and played out there, and then studied with Shelly Manne when I was out there. Came back to New York, continued working, did the session scene by doing different jingles and all that different work in the New York scene. Freelance, playing with guys like B.B. King and George Benson and Barney Kessel and all different types of plays, and Tito Puente and Lionel Hampton's big band. And all that was extremely exciting. Continued on. Then I had my own band and continued on doing some of these clinics and teaching. And from that, doing these different festivals around the world. And these past 8 weeks now, I just played 8 countries.
Wow. Sound Synergy's percussion care lubricants and conditioners include a series of 3 products for total drum kit care and maintenance. Pedal Lube, the only product specifically designed for bass drum, hi-hat pedals, and triggers, as well as all moving metal parts and drum hardware, safely removes grit, grime, and other contaminants while protecting against harmful friction wear. Cymbal Care restores and conditions cymbal surfaces without strippers or harmful polishes. Wear Barrier is a conditioning formula for all drum heads, rims, and even sticks, Percussion Care products in your gig bag ensures your entire kit will always look and sound its best. Well, let's back up a little bit because you touched on something I think is important. I moved to Los Angeles in the 80s and I ran into some kids there who were doing what you were talking about. They were studying privately with some of the great master pros out there, some of their mentors and heroes, and they were getting a degree in something else. And I think there might be a lot to be said for that.
Well, I was a proponent by saying I wanted this. And I knew if I really want this, I've got to stay focused on the desire and the vision that I have to want this. And I enjoyed performing. That's my first love. But I also enjoyed teaching. So it was 17 years old I started teaching because people were asking me if I'd show them kind of what I was playing. So I got involved in teaching. So now I've been teaching since I'm 17. That's 47 years I've been teaching, and I've had a private teaching practice. I'm in my studio now. I've got over 2,500 students that travel to me from 30 countries. Wow. It's an amazing teaching practice. Plus, I just got back from Brazil where I played a festival with Vera Figueiredo, who's one of the top female percussion players in Brazil. And I played with her band on stage, the concert there, also in Sao Paulo. So performing with musicians and doing the balance of all of it. But I stayed focused on the plan. And if we get too veered off, when I hear someone say, well, I want to be a drummer, I want to be in the music industry, but I'm going to go to school and I'm going to major in engineering because in case I have something to fall back on.
Right.
Well, the challenge with that is you're probably going to fail both at music and at engineering. Mm-hmm. So you have to really kind of commit to what you want and give it that full attention until you are totally either satisfied or until you make that change that this is not my path, let me go back. So I felt that was an important process for me. And it worked. I'm still doing it for all these years.
Right. It has to work for that person doing that thing. And it certainly has for you.
It's an individual journey that they have to find. And as I teach in my lessons, I tell people, let's try a few different plans to see what works for you. And when we find out that one works for you and we're having success, we'll stay down that path.
Well, I want to talk about all that. But before that, you were one of the first cats that really expanded the a lot of people who play decided to teach too because they love both, but they taught their neighborhood, they taught at a store, they taught here and there, but you were one of the first guys who were able to really expand that reach way beyond where you live. How did you begin to do that?
I realized that I really enjoyed teaching, and I realized that I was making a difference, Michael, and this is something where, for example, what you're doing with Drummer Nation, you're making a difference. This effort that what you're doing, this is a thankless job that you're doing, but by doing this, you're interviewing people, and I've heard many of them. I just watched the Butch Miles interview. It was fantastic. I've known Butch for 40-some-odd years. It was just great to hear him talk. And as an artist at the level that he has been at all of his life, it's been amazing. With that, you kind of just follow that path and you go with it. So with the teaching thing, I felt I was making a difference with people, and they were excited about drumming, and it was helping the drumming industry, that they were buying more equipment and being involved and buying books and things, and that was helping out. So I stayed with that. And there was a shop here on Long Island called the Long Island Drum Center, and they had asked me to be their education director. So I ended up building up their teaching practice, where we had 27 teachers under me with over 1,000 students a week.
Wow. And
I was doing clinics in schools on Long Island. I did, at one point in 1 year, 400 schools, literally going in there and playing for the band director, playing not only for the drummers, but then for the full band, just talking about practicing and studying. And it was exciting. And they'd all get whipped up about drumming. They'd all come back to the shop and take lessons. And hence 1,000 students, 27 teachers later. So as I built that up, their business built up from a teaching basis. And I felt, boy, maybe I have some good business skills that can help build that up while I'm doing the performing and while I'm doing the teaching. Then I started writing a couple drum books while I'm directing the shop there. And before you know it, things were happening at such a high level that I then decided to put this into my own business. I built a studio in the backyard of my home. It's a 24 by a 24-foot room, totally soundproof, built out of cement. I basically built a freaking bunker. And I'm here in this room, and it is a quality lesson because there's no sound that we hear outside. We're in here. It's intense, and it's exciting to see the development of that. So the teaching thing has always been a focus that I've enjoyed the results of what I've been able to produce with some great, great students.
My new site, Stanton Moore Drum Academy, is the perfect online drum learning platform for any level drummer to learn how to play the drums the same way I did, with the advantage of having me road test the material on hundreds of stages, countless clinics, lessons, and master classes, and dozens of studio sessions every year. On the site, you'll find over 13 hours of video, dozens of written lessons, and fresh material gets added all the time. I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of you as subscribers on the site, and I think we're going to have a lot of fun.
Well, you're an example of what I call having a full musical basket. In other words, as a drummer, we can throw ourselves out there in the marketplace and hope we get gigs. And maybe we'll hit it with a band and we're stars the rest of our lives. But that doesn't happen very often. Most drummers will teach and they will eventually look at other things that go into that musical basket. For me, it was teaching. I had a cymbal company for a long time. I do this Drummer Nation thing. I'm doing social media for drummers. I look at all of that as drumming. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, and that's smart that you do it that way, because that really is also expanding your creative talents that you're using in many areas. And, you know, listen, I love playing in a band. There's a musical creativity there. But when I'm teaching or writing a book or consulting for the companies or coming up with a program for an educational program worldwide, it's all a part of that creative process that's so exciting.
That's what Ed Soap said. I asked him in a previous interview. You know, he was one of the best drummers of his generation. I don't want to say was. He's still with us and still playing his ass off. But I asked him, why did he make that career choice for teaching? He said, well, he felt it was something he loved, something he was great at, and something that was very challenging and answered to his creative needs.
And Ed is not only is he a great guy, but he plays his tail off all the time, and he teaches at a high level. So here's a perfect example of someone that had many different skills that use them at those levels, and you can take nothing away from his playing because he's been teaching all these years. That's why I say the balance of teaching and performance, it's not either or. It's not, well, the guy's a player, but he can't teach, or the guy's it really is the bigger picture of how you see yourself with certain skills and talents that you have. And Ed's a great example of doing it all.
You remind me of him with that. Now, eventually you broadened your scope beyond Long Island. How did you have people travel to see you, or was it the infancy of Skype, or how did you do this from the beginning?
It was kind of interesting. In the early 80s, as I was doing local clinics on Long Island, the incredible, a gentleman by the name of, oh my gosh, I just forgot his name. I'll think of it later on. Al Marinara. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot Al. I'm so sorry. Al Marinara, great rep for Tama drums at the time. And he heard me play, and he contacted the Tama guys, and before you know it, they came by and heard me play at a school clinic and asked if I wanted to be involved with Tama drums as an education director. I didn't know what that meant in the early 80s, and I don't even think they knew what that meant at that time. But what they wanted me to do was they wanted me to open up clinics with guys like Billy Cobham and Simon Phillips and these guys, and go out there and just teach and excite drummers. I said, let's do it. So we went out there, and one of the first clinics I did was with Simon Phillips. We did 27 cities in 28 days. It was intense.
It's like a book tour.
Nationwide, one of the first stops was in St. Louis. Rob Birnbaum, a dear friend of mine who owned a shop called Drum Headquarters in St. Louis, had me there. We had about 1,000 people that showed up. I went on first, did my thing. Simon did his thing. Then we played together. The audience went crazy. And that began my career now of all of a sudden now doing these clinics, where after that tour, many of the shops that I played at wanted me back alone. So when that happened, all of a sudden now I had all these different drummers nationwide that wanted lessons with me.
I see.
And with my teaching, because I was blessed to have worked with guys like Joe Morello and Shelly Mann and Jim Chapin and Max Roach and Papa Joe Jones and Philly Joe Jones, sitting down with these guys and having lessons with them because I lived in the East Coast of the Long Island, New York area, they were all here. So it's exciting. So having that information, I kind of had things to offer to explain. So now these drummers wanted lessons with me. So in the beginning stages, what they would do if they couldn't get to my studio on Long Island, at the time when VHS was in, they would record 15 minutes of a VHS recording and mail me the VHS tape, and I had them mail me a little cassette tape and a check for the lesson. So I would get that in a package. I would watch the video, make notes on it, then start the video and the audio tape at the same time, speaking over the video, stopping me at times to explain the lesson. The first sheet I'm going to give you is an exercise on balance. Work on this with your feet. Okay, now start the video again. And we go through this whole thing. I'd send them back the videotape, the audio tape, and I kept the check.
Of course. Very creative, very interesting. So you were way ahead of the game then. Now, Skype came into the picture sooner or later, right?
Way before Skype. This
yeah, I know.
In the 80s. So at this point, I'm getting now videotapes from all around the world. And on my desk, I'd have like 40 or 50 videos. So what I would do is, and I wanted the balance of a wonderful family and a family life also to balance that personal side. So When the family went to sleep, I went back to my desk and did 2 or 3 videos. When I did 2 or 3 videos at night when the family was sleeping, I was making money at that time keeping that going while I was teaching lessons, while I was playing gigs, while I was doing clinics, while I was writing drum books.
There you go.
And it was that skill of all of that that made it all go together. When Skype came in the beginning stages, it was dial-up, and I saw right away this could be huge. Now these guys that I have with these video cassettes can have access to see me, and I can kind of see their hands. So this was when it was dial-up.
I think what our Cymbals brought to the Sabian family is that there is lots more hand hammering. They're all hand hammered, and so you really have to perfect the hammering technique and where to hammer on the cymbal. You know, you don't want to get the cymbal too thin in a lot of places. They were willing to try it, and I think we came out with a great product that is a great musical instrument.
We started doing this on dial-up. It was like,
I remember that.
I
Yeah.
heard the modem. It was hysterical when I think back of it now. We did it when it came on. It might not have been as clear, but we were able to communicate better than that person trying to travel to get to me.
Well, you do what you can. You know, I can get better video quality and better audio quality if I come and see you and bring a lot of stuff and set it up. But this is what works. So we go with what works.
And it worked, and these kids felt they were growing from it. So now, all of a sudden, I get a call from Skype. I get this call that says, hello, I'm a general manager for Skype, and we noticed that you're doing something on here. What are you doing? I said, well, I'm teaching drum lessons, and this is working. Now, at that time, they had to mail me a check, or they had to go through to my bank routing if they were from a foreign country. Then all of a sudden, now Skype goes on to a different level. We now have the internet at a higher level. I've got some Wi-Fi here that's very, very powerful. We've got PayPal. We've got Venmo. We've got all these different ways of communicating. Now, the other day, literally, before I went to Brazil, I taught 8 one-hour lessons from my studio right here to 8 different students from 8 different countries.
Wow, that's amazing.
It was exciting. I went.
It's very exciting.
Hello, Belgium. Hello, Vancouver. New Zealand. What's the weather down there? Hello, China. This was, I went around the world, 8 hours. I finished the day of, closed my studio, walked 50 feet back into my house, and had dinner with my wife.
That's beautiful. Now, you've become something of a drum ambassador. Don't you think of yourself that way?
Well, you know, Ron Spagnardi, the great, the fantastic drummer who started Modern Drummer.
Yeah.
God rest his soul. What a beautiful visionary and a wonderful man. He was the one that gave me that title, Drumming's Global Ambassador, in an interview like 20-some years ago, 30 years ago. He said, Dom, that's really what you're doing. You're really traveling the globe at this pace. I played 20 countries this year, a few of them more than once. The intensity of traveling, 222,000 miles I traveled on Delta Airlines this year, means that's about 8 or 9 times around the earth. This was a crazy year, but it was exciting. It was about drumming. I feel I'm trying to help push the global drumming industry forward by getting more people involved and raising the standard of performance. Performance goes up, and out of my 2,500 students, I think 80% of them are teachers.
Wow.
So it's a
Well,
whole
let's talk about the pedagogy now. You teach out of certain books, or is it out of your own exercises, or are you dialing in for each student? Probably all of the above, right?
Great question, all the above. And if you look back at me, all these different books that I have behind me, I use books the way a doctor uses medicine. I understand all the different books or all the different medicine that's available. When that patient or student comes in, I've got to analyze and question them and find out what they want and then what I feel they need to achieve what they want. So then I pull those books out as prescriptions. You need this, let's work on this. And it changes with everybody. I just had a wonderful jazz drummer here, Andrew Burns he lives in the Brooklyn area. He's a phenomenal player. And he's in here working on some jazz stuff, working on molar and fingle techniques and stuff. And his playing is improved dramatically, and he's opening up. And here's a player that we went down a different path of what we needed, and how we go through stick control might be differently than how I take the student before that in stick control.
Right. That's a very good point, that some teachers may have a dialed-in philosophy of how they're going to teach, and you either fit that or you don't. But let me ask you just about hands itself. It used to be when we were kids, they taught a certain way to hold the sticks, and that was that. Nowadays, you have the great Jojo Meyer video. Steve Smith's got a new one out where you're talking about the different ways you can do the fulcrum and whether using fingers. And the feeling nowadays is they're all valid.
Absolutely. And what happens is I teach all of the tools. And I look at it this way, all the different hand positions and the fulcrum positions, I teach all of it. And I teach all of it because I say, it's like the more tools you have, the easier it is for you to build what you're trying to build. Now, I have, I like working on my house. I've got 3 different hammers that I have. And one hammer is a very small hammer. It looks like a little tack hammer. It's like a little Sharpie pen, and it's got a little head on it. And it's a little hammer that I use small little tack nails. And I have that where if my wife wants me to fix her picture frame that broke, I get my little tack hammer, the tack nail, and I fix the picture frame. I use the right tool for the right job.
Right.
If I want to replace a window in the house and my wife says, listen, the kitchen window needs to be replaced, can you change the window? Absolutely. I then get my framing hammer, and my framing hammer might be this big. I get my framing hammer now, it's got a bigger head onto it, a bigger nail, and I'm putting that window in the side to put the framing of it. That's a whole different tool that I need. Then my wife says to me, the patio in the back with the cement, I want you to break the patio up because I want to put a new patio in. The first thing I realized is my wife is working me to death over here, Michael. I can't believe she's put me to work like I'm some kind of a servant here. This is amazing.
You look like you're all right. How long you been married?
24 years.
Yeah, there you go.
I have wonderful boys, and my wife is the best, as my kids are. We have laughs and fun. But as I'm working on this, I realized that I had to get a sledgehammer now. So a sledgehammer is a bigger device. You're standing up, and you're working this hammer above your head to play this here. So now it came down to the fact that I have these 3 hammers. So if I want to fix the picture frame, would I use the sledgehammer? No, I'd end up killing myself, not doing the job well. If I wanted to break the cement, would I use the tack hammer?
Of course not.
You might. That's what they do in prison when they want you to spend the rest of your life breaking rocks.
Point taken. You hear this argument come up a lot when you're talking about drum corps guys and drum set guys. The drum set guys will say, man, that's all real stiff and tight and military. And you go, yeah, they're drum corps, man. They're not playing bebop. You don't want to play that. You wouldn't play bebop that way. You wouldn't play drum corps like that.
It's that different mentality that we're looking to achieve. So when someone comes to me who's a drum corps player and wants to play drum set, I have to kind of reprogram, not disavow what he's learned so far.
Precisely.
Reprogram newer techniques. So those are new techniques. As I said, they're new tools. But I tell my students, I want you to own all the tools.
Right.
If you own all the tools, then you can choose if you want to build a birdhouse or a skyscraper. That's up to you.
Well, I mentioned Ed Soph earlier. You also remind me of Michael Carvin a bit, and that Michael's a guy that I did an interview with him that hasn't aired yet, but he's interested in the person, in the human being, in making a functioning man or woman out of this drummer that entails all those other things. So I know you are all about that, and you do some coaching too, right? Some life coaching or mentoring?
I do. I wrote a book called The Cycle of Self-Empowerment, a type of a motivational book years ago. And I wrote it because of all my travels around the world. I've been traveling to well over 60, 70 countries for the past 35 years. In the course of doing that, I started to hear the same challenges. So I wrote this book, The Cycle of Self-Empowerment. And with that book, I realized that I've got to understand the person to give them the guidance of where they're going. And there were 3 different areas to balance. And I have this here, which I'm fine-tuning for a new book that I'm writing called The Business and Art of Art. And I'm going to show this to everybody here. What this is I call this the balance of passion. And it's from my book, The Business and Art of Art, which will be coming out soon next year. And with this here, there's 3 different areas. There's the artistic side, which means you've got to be a constant learner. There's the business side, which means the CEO is you. You are the CEO of your business. Then there's the personal side, and the personal side is a healthy you and a healthy relationship. If I am focused on all 3 of them, that center part is where the balance of passion is. This really is important. And sometimes with students, we've got to work on the personal side so they can, maybe get out of a tough relationship that's holding them back because it's so negative, it's not allowing them to pursue their artistic development or their business development. There are some students that I have that are in a wonderful, loving relationship. They're growing, they're phenomenal artists, they're playing, they're practicing, but their business skills are terrible. They don't have a website. They're not calling back people on time. They're not organized. We got to work on that. So the balance of all of that, to me, is extremely important. I wanted to have a family life and a house, kids. My 3 boys are in college. My wife is my assistant in what I do. I wanted a healthy family life because I realized that nobody ever said, boy, I wish I spent more time at the office on their deathbed. I think they realized it's about family and the power of human relationship. That's what music is.
That's
When I
beautiful.
performed in Brazil and played with this band, Cuban piano player and a Brazilian bass player. These guys are fantastic. We played. People were moved by it. I was blessed to have a standing ovation. It was exciting, but they felt the essence of the emotion, and that comes from the personal side being built up. That comes from my business organization to know how to organize all this here, and it came from my artistic dedication of still being a constant student.
Hi, this is Michael Vosspine, your host for Drummer Nation, and I do the show as labor of love, but I could use a little help. If you'd like to be a patron of the show, please go to the site patreon.com/drummernation. Help us out. Thanks. This all reminds me of a scene from a movie. Do you know the movie New York, New York? It was kind of a flawed movie. Robert De Niro played a tenor saxophone player, and his love interest is Liza Minnelli. And she's asking him, what do you want? And he says, I want my major chord. Well, what's the major chord? The major chord is, in no particular order, being able to play the music you love, having enough money to live and get by, and having somebody to spend your life with. So it's kind of those three things you're talking about: business, art, and personal.
And think of that balance. When you're developing the skill and you're still a student, 64 years young, playing drums professionally, literally for 52 years, I'm still a student of the art form.
I'm right there with you. I'm 62.
Right there it is. That excites us every day to keep going. The business side, now here you are organizing Drummer Nation by doing this here and getting the word out. We'll put this on my fan page and we'll get more people excited about it. We're going to open up more doors and we're going to reach more people, and you're going to be even making more of a difference in that. And by being involved with a relationship and a family, that's a whole nother level. This holiday season, when I get together with my boys, when they come home from college and I see them, the world stops for them. I exist for them. Mm-hmm. You know, it really doesn't matter. You know, one gentleman asked me, I said to him, I've got my 3 boys that are in college. This is exciting for an article an interview I did for a magazine. And the guy said, gee, Dom, you've got these 3 boys in college. It's incredible. Your wife, it's fantastic. He said, what motivates you? What keeps you going at this higher level? And I said, did you not hear the part that I have 3 boys in college?
Yeah, what you just said is what motivates me, right?
Exactly right.
And that's way more fulfilling than the gig you played last night, generally speaking.
Well, you know, it really is. And with that, what the love that I get from my family enhances the gig I played. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be able to be good at that gig if I didn't understand love and compassion and respect and humility and gratitude, words that are very important to have inside music. You're not going to meet anybody more humbler, if that's even a word, more humble, I should say, than Steve Gadd. You know, Steve is like just the most down-to-earth guy, and he plays at such a high level. He's a family guy that understands his personal growth as an artist and his understanding of business. It's beautiful to see guys, like you mentioned, Ed, see this full palette of what the bigger picture is about.
One of the things I'm blessed to be able to do is to interact with world-class drummers all the time. And it helps me stay on my game at a local level. But the other thing it teaches me is just how together these guys are. If you want to be like your favorite guy or gal and you think it's just about how you hold the sticks, you're sadly mistaken. It's the whole package.
When I grow up, I want to be Ed Sove. Absolutely, man.
Well, a lot of guys want to be Dom Famularo when they grow up, and you're doing a great job to spread the word.
Still trying to be Dom Famularo, that's for sure, man.
I love your spirit. I love your energy. Like I said earlier, before we did the show, this is not a long format, but I like to be able to keep them fairly succinct so I can have people come back. I'd love to have you back. We've only scratched the surface.
Absolutely, man. We'll make it a part 2. A part 3 will go as long as you want, man. You know where I am. This is fantastic to have. And even in my studio someday, I'll give you a tour of my studio, and we'll talk about all the bigger picture of specifics, what can happen in sometimes a lesson. That's very, very important.
I look forward to that. In the meantime, I'll keep running into you at the PASICs and trade shows and all those things. So
absolutely. I'll be at NAMM in a few months, next month. So hopefully I'll see you there. And at PASIC again, man, Michael, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dom, and what an inspiration you are to everyone. And thank you so much. I'm honored that you did my show. Take care, buddy.
Good, man. Have a happy and healthy New Year to you and your family. And to all the drummers that are out there, have a great, great holiday season. And if you watch this in future years to come by, be the best you can be every single day and smile and love it. Absolutely.
I'm not tagging onto that. That's perfect. Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you so much.
This is your host, Michael Vosspine, and I'd like to thank our friends at Sabian Cymbals. Sound Synergies, Stanton Moore Drum Academy, and Classic Drummer Magazine. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.